Today, I want to discuss about morality. Not because I have mastered it, not because I have become free of it, but because I keep catching myself doing it, giving moral lectures, judging, explaining how things should be, telling myself that people should behave differently. And perhaps you do this too. Maybe not openly, maybe you don't stand on a stage and tell people how to live, but inside your mind, you have a courtroom. You have arguments, you have evidences, you have judgments, you have sentences, and every day somebody is standing trial. A friend, a colleague, a spouse, a parent, a stranger on social media, sometimes even yourself. And the funny thing is that while delivering these moral lectures, we forget our own history. We forget the chapters of our lives where we bent every rule, where you acted emotionally, where you ignored advices, where you chose desire over discipline, where you knew exactly what was right and still did the opposite. You know those moments. The relationship you entered despite knowing it would hurt, the money you spent despite knowing you couldn't afford it, the lie you told to avoid conflict, the opportunity you chased despite everybody warning you against it, the person you loved despite every red flag, the dream you followed despite nobody believing in it. And at that moment, you did not want a lecture. You wanted understanding. You wanted space. You wanted the freedom of experience life your own way. Yet somehow, years later, you become expert at advising others and you forget how complicated life actually is. The biggest problem with morality is not morality itself. The problem is certainty. The moment you become absolute certain that your way is the only way, growth stops, curiosity stops, understanding stops, compassion stops, rigidity begins. And rigidity is dangerous because life itself is flexible. Think about this. You are at one stage of life, the person sitting across you is at another. You have your experiences, they have theirs. You have your fears, they have theirs. You have your goals, they have theirs. You are trying to solve one problem, they are trying to solve another problem. How can the same answer fit every question? One person believes honesty means saying everything directly, another believes honesty means saying only what is useful and kind. One person believes confrontation solves problems, another believes patience solves problems. One person leaves when respect is lost, another stays and works through difficulties. Who is right? Maybe both, maybe neither. Maybe life is far more nuanced than our need for certainty allows. You often imagine life as a black and white, right and wrong, good and bad, success and failure. But most of life happens in shades of grey, and those grey areas make people uncomfortable. You want simple answers. Simple answers make you feel safe. Unfortunately, life is rarely simple. The older I become, the more I realize that people are not necessarily irrational. They operate from different map. You may look at somebody and wonder, how does this person function? How is he successful? How does he or she manage her life? How can somebody be so naive, so insecure, so unprofessional, so emotional, so disorganized, and yet somehow they survive? Somehow they move forward. Somehow they build family, build careers, build businesses, build relationships. Something's working. Maybe not according to your formula, but according to theirs. And that realization can be very humbling. I remember having conversation with my father. Perhaps you have experienced something similar. You try to explain your perspective, he explains his, you resist, he insists, you argue, he argues, and after conversation ends, you walk away, convinced he doesn't understand. Then time passes, life happens, and suddenly you encounter a situation where his approach actually works. Not perfectly, but it works. Then another situation, and slowly you realize something profound. He was not completely wrong, you were not completely right. Both of you were carrying pieces of truth. The realization changed everything. Because maturity is not replacing one certainty with another. Maturity is learning to hold multiple truths simultaneously. My senior Jawad sir used to repeat one Kashmiri proverb: One can kulan khuda sun sag. The trees of forest are watered by Almighty Himself. Think deep about it. Not every tree receives attention. Not every tree receives your approval. Not every tree follows your path. Yet the forest survives. The trees grow. The seasons change. Life continues. There is a force much larger than your opinion keeping everything in motion. And perhaps that should make us humble. Because the world existed before our judgment, your and mine, and it will continue after them. Sometimes you exhaust yourself trying to control people, trying to educate them, trying to correct them, trying to save them, trying to make them understand. But most people change only when their own experiences teach them. Just as you did. Nobody could have experienced certain lessons to you, explained certain lessons to you. Nobody could have explained certain lessons to you. You had to live them, you had to fail, you had to suffer, you had to discover, you had to arrive there yourself. The same is true for others. Your lecture may be perfectly logical, your advice may be absolutely correct, your intentions may be pure, and still it may be the lesson that person is it may not be the lesson the person is ready to receive. That doesn't mean stop caring. It means stop forcing. There's a difference. Care without attachment, guide without controlling, suggest without demanding, love without ownership. The moment you stop trying to redesign everyone around you, something remarkable happens. Your stress decreases, your frustration decreases, your anger decreases. Because you are no longer carrying responsibility for other people's lives. You're carrying responsibility for yours own, and that is already enough work. Every moral judgment creates tension. Every judgment says, this should not be happening, but reality continues happening anyways, and the gaps between what is and what you think should be becomes suffering. The wider the gap, the greater the suffering. You become angry, frustrated, disappointed, exhausted. Your body responds to stress hormone rises, sleep suffers, patience disappears. You replay conversations repeatedly. You imagine arguments. You rehearse speeches. You construct perfect responses hour after the discussion ends. And for what? The person continues living. Meanwhile, you have become their unpaid prisoner. The irony is that while trying to change them, you are the one going to be affected. You are the one carrying the burden. You are the one losing peace. Maybe it's time to put the burden down. Maybe it's time to stop being judge, jury, executioner in every situation. Maybe it's time to accept that people will continue being people. Some will be wise, some will be foolish, some will be disciplined, some will be careless, some will be kind, some will be selfish. And many will be all those things depending on the day. Just like you, just like me. Perhaps the freedom begins the moment you stop demanding that reality matches your preferences. Perhaps peace begins when you stop trying to improve every person you meet. Perhaps wisdom begins when you realize that life has room for many different paths. As long as we remain within our boundaries of law and do not intentionally harm others, there are countless ways to live, countless ways to think, countless ways to love, countless ways to succeed, countless ways to fail. And perhaps that's exactly how it's supposed to be. So next time you feel an urge to give a moral lecture, pause. Remember your story. Remember your contradictions. Remember your own mistakes. Remember the times you ignored advices. Remember the times you surprised everybody by succeeding despite doing things your way. And then offer understanding before judgment, curiosity before certainty, compassion before criticism. Because you do not need to carry weight of correcting entire world. You have permission to set yourself free. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You stop fighting. You start observing. You stop controlling. You start understanding them. You stop demanding perfection. You start appreciating complexity. And perhaps for the first time in a long time, you experience something that no moral lecture has ever been able to produce. Peace. Thank you for listening. And until next time, be gentle with the people, including yourself.